I hope you're okay. I really do. I don't talk a whole lot about the COVID-19 pandemic that is ravaging now the United States and has been ravaging the world for just under a year. But I want to talk about it a little bit with this podcast. What we're going through right now with this incredible peak of hospitalizations and infections and deaths was avoidable. That's what makes it so terrifying. It was avoidable. And the full knowledge that I'm sure you have the same way I do, the full knowledge that had we had leadership from the top, from the office of the president, not this filthy waste of DNA, Donald Trump, but had we had leadership, I know, and the medical experts have passed this information on to us, that's how I know, we would not be in the situation that we're in now. Now, that's the larger share of it. Another part of why we're in this situation is because for some reason, there are so many of us who just, by God, refuse to take the simple, ridiculously simple steps necessary to prevent the spread of this virus to the extent that it has spread. Masking, social distancing. Stop going to your goddamn bar. Stop going to your church. Stop going to gatherings. Don't go to parties. Just stop what you're doing, or don't stop. And if you don't stop, this is where we are. Now, I'm not addressing you, True Seeker, because I know that you have followed those simple, basic guidelines. I know you have, just like I have. And just like I insist that my 16-year-old daughter does, and like her little group of friends do. But the fact that we have tens of millions of Americans who have expressed their ignorance and their, I should say, their willful ignorance, because the facts have been out there. I'm not talking about the garbage and the bullshit put out by Donald Trump and the people around him. I'm not talking about that. Dr. Fauci, and even to a lesser degree, Dr. Birx, although she was, and still is, kind of weaselly about the whole thing out of her fear of this orange bastard. But they have told us, there were members of the so-called White House Coronavirus Task Force. Remember that? Isn't that quaint? White House Coronavirus Task Force. Oh, good. Someone to lead us through this horror. No. They did not lead us through the horror. These son of a bitches led us into the horror. And again, I'm exempting Dr. Fauci, of course, and to a lesser degree, Dr. Birx, and to an even lesser degree, Dr. Redfield at CDC. But the monsters within the Trump administration, especially this sick son of a bitch, Dr. Atlas, who has now turned tail and run like the scared little piece of human waste that he is. Oh, he's gone now. He resigned. Let me out of here. Woo woo. Too many deaths, too many sicknesses, too many peaks and no valleys. Oh, my goodness. I didn't cause this. Where's the exit door? Son of a bitch. But had we had leadership, had we had a huge segment of the population that had the basic goddamn common sense, but it requires a smattering of scientific knowledge to have the sort of common sense I'm talking about. And so many people in this country have kicked to the curb the idea of scientific information, scientific common sense, and opted instead for political bullshit and religious nonsense. And so we're paying for it. I keep thinking about what I've read about the horrible pandemics that swept through Europe during the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages. You know, the bubonic plague, flu pandemics, diseases that, granted, the learned people of those times had no idea what was going on, so they just laid it all at the feet of their psychotic, belligerent, killer God. And the church leaders at the time promoted the idea. Well, you know, you sinned, you son of a bitch. That's why your flesh is dropping off of you in rotted clots. Oh, yeah, that certainly worked, didn't it? So here we are. The United States yesterday, according to some synopses put together by the New York Times, yesterday the United States recorded its single worst daily death toll since this horror began. And that was on a day yesterday when hospitalizations for this pandemic also hit an all-time high. And to compound this horror, the pace, the rate of loss is showing no signs of slowing anytime soon. It just keeps growing. So yesterday, not since spring, during the pandemic's first week, were so many deaths reported. The high point early on was back on April 15th, when 2,752 people died on the same day. Nearly the total that died in the attack on the Twin Towers on September 11th, 2001. Yesterday, it was at least 2,760. Almost equivalent to the number of people killed in the Twin Tower attack on September 11th, 2001. We are now at the point where every day we can expect an equivalent number to those who died during the attack on the World Trade Center. And where is the President of the United States and the Vice President and the rest of these unconscionable son of a bitches who supposedly are the leaders of this country? Where are they? Is Trump out playing golf again? Is he eating his goddamn cheeseburgers? Where's Pence, the uber Christian? Where's he? Where are these people? Hiding behind their lies and their bullshit. Hospitalizations from the virus yesterday, the total number of people in hospital, 100,000, which is more than double the number at the beginning of November, 1 month ago. And the experts are saying that is a very clear indicator of what the days ahead are going to look like. Dr. Jeremy Faust, who's an emergency medicine physician at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, is quoted here. He says, quote, if you tell me the hospitalizations are up this week, I'll tell you that several weeks down the road, the deaths will also be up, end quote. And again, I've mentioned this before. I get the sick feeling that so many people who have this willful ignorance about how disease operates, how it spreads, how it can be contained, how vaccines work, how the body's immune system works, just basic stuff that every person over the age of 15 should understand, especially now This is not a difficult subject to at least understand on a layperson's basis, like I do, like I'm sure you do, like most people just refuse to accept the knowledge. It was so preventable. But I want to point out, for all the similarities to the spring pandemic peak that we went through, there's some profound differences now, and they're not good. They're not good at all. For example, in April, the virus and the deaths were still concentrated in New York and New England. And today, the death toll is being felt across the country. There's not a state, there's not a county, there's not a city or a village or that is not experiencing the horror of this disease. And you want something that's even worse? In April, the peak that month represented the worst moments of the spring, and it was followed by a decline in deaths. You know why? Because lockdowns were imposed, and many Americans back then changed their behavior. We did. I remember when this started. I remember back in May when Molly and I are in the process of locating an apartment. What the hell, I might as well tell you, locating an apartment here in Atlanta that we can move into, and going through all of that insanity while at the same time trying to maintain her schooling, which we did just fine, thank you very much. But during that time, we were masked, we were gloved, both of us. And everybody that I saw when I would go to the grocery store or go to the bank or go here, go there, people wore gloves, people wore masks, people took this seriously. And you know why? Because that was at a time before this orange piece of junk, crap, this monster that squats in the White House stuffing his face with cheeseburgers, he had not yet decided to politicize this disease. So people were taking precautions. I remember trying to find a box of blue surgical gloves, looking in drugstore after drugstore, until I finally found one, 800 pairs or whatever the hell it is, 80 pairs, and I felt like, whew, oh God, we're okay. And that's what Molly and I wore. And that's what we saw other people wearing. But then, this filthy bastard in the White House and his sick goddamn family, they started their propaganda move. Oh, well, shutting down a city, no commerce, no tax money, no income. What, the stock market's going to go down? What, people are out of work? What, oh no, we can't have that. You dirty bastard, Trump. You dirty son of a bitch, you. I hope history, you won't be around, you bloated bastard, but I hope history will note what this monster and his filthy family, and I'm not talking about just his nuclear family, anyone associated with this monster, what you did to this country, politically, scientifically, socially, psychologically, emotionally, and in the number of deaths at your feet, you bloated bastard, you. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com. And never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.